The following program may contain strong language and mature content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, I'm Donta.
And hey, I'm Dana.
And welcome to the Donta Show.
What's up, Village? It's your boy Kwame, the man with the plan behind the stands. I'm going to go ahead and make this quick because some of y'all got mouths and be talking mess in the comments and saying that the intro commercial is too long. So, I got something for you. Here we go. Let's get into it. Before we bring out these awesome kings, I need you to stop what you're doing. Excuse me? Excuse me? Ma'am? Sir? You? Yeah, you! Whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, I need you to go ahead and share this live stream. Donta and Dana didn't get all dressed up for you not to share their melanated goodness. So share. You share everything else up in here. Share some quality content for your boys. Now that we mentioned YouTube, are you subscribed to the Donta Show's YouTube? Oh, you're not? Oh, girl. I'm going to need y'all to get it together. Join the village. Go over to www.youtube.com/Donta Morrison. And when you get a chance, head over to Dr. Morrison's. That's right, your boy got his PhD. Head over to Dr. Donta Morrison's website, www.dontamorrison.com, where you can learn more about the man, the myth, the legend known as Donta. And while you're at it, grab some TDS merch and his books. Yes, purchase those smutty books filled with smut. Grab The End of the Rainbow and Yesterday Clarified. Last but not least, head over to the company that put this all together, Pyro Media Network. Pyro Media Network is a proactive network focused on providing an innovative space for content creators and entrepreneurs. PMN is dedicated to giving its viewers a diverse entertainment experience while helping content creators elevate their production, engagement, and overall branding. To date, PMN has reached over 1 million viewers and listeners internationally, produced over 52 successful shows with high ratings and fanfare, and has housed over 60 content creators, brands, and businesses through entertainment and consulting services exclusive to PMN. Pyro Media Network is a network that makes you feel at home. So if you have an idea for a show, podcast, or need some professional video and audio production for your business or brand, then join the Pyro family today. Go ahead and visit www.pyromedianetwork.com and we will show you how to go to the next level. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome my brothers from another mother, the dynamic duo, the melanated kings themselves, Donta and Dana. Let's get it. Let's go!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tuesday
the Tuesday edition of the Dante Show with your boy Dante Morrison. Y'all know on Tuesdays is when I go solo bolo because Dana is off doing his Dana-isms and doing all kind of Dana-type behavior. He could not be here on Tuesday nights, but I'm going to hold it down because at the end of the day, it's the Dante Show, and I appreciate y'all for rocking with me, rolling with me, and just being here on tonight for part 2 of a phenomenal conversation featuring my friend, my brother, Daryl Walter. If you watched last Tuesday, Daryl opened up about growing up in the, I'm going to say the Kojic, growing up in the Church of God in Christ as a young black gay boy, and just navigating through that system. It sparked dialogue. It lit the comments up. Everybody was invested. Everybody was engaged, and then opened the door to just a deeper dive into what's really going on, in the black church when it comes to just talking about sex, sexual identity, sexual behaviors, and all that kind of good stuff. So the people were saying, Dante, we need a part 2. I'm like, well, hey, I got, I'm booked. I'm busy. Dante, we need a part 2. And we asked Daryl on the spot, would he be willing to come back and do part 2? And without taking a beat, he said, yes, I am there. Yes, I am here. So before I bring Daryl on, I'm going to ask you all just to go ahead and invite your friends, family, cousins, and loved ones into tonight's show. Get this conversation going because it's definitely necessary. And I say it's necessary because a lot of people are not understanding the trauma that occurs within the church for people who basically are marginalized, whose lives are different, who has a different approach to living, and I think that we have done I don't want to say a piss poor job, but we have not done our due diligence with making sure that everyone in church who is going to church to feel safe is safe. Some people do not feel comfortable. They do not feel welcome. They do not feel empowered. They do not feel like they belong. And I think that does not fall into the LGBTQ community. I think at one point, women were marginalized and shut down and told what they could not do. What's up, Brian? How you doing, fam? I think every era of movement within the black church had a population that was shunned. But for some reason, when it comes to the LGBTQ community, it's just this magnifying glass that is just really on it and saying, yo, wrong, 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 hell, 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 condemn, 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 condemn. And it's funny because I was at a function a few weeks ago, and I was with my mom, and it was a spiritual church function, and the pastor, what's up, frat? And the pastor was talking, and literally out of nowhere, he says something about, now we got all these gays. And I'm like all these gays, like we just poof, like genie in a bottle. We just kind of came out and was like, hey, here we are. No, we're not new. We were in event last year during the pandemic. So then after we left, my mom was like, why they always bothering y'all? And I was like, mama, she was in it. And my mom is, listen, what's up, Kevin? How you doing? What's up, Cedric? How you doing? And my mom is about it. My mom, is Holy Ghost. My mom was all about it. But she was like, why they keep bothering y'all? Just leave y'all alone. Y'all ain't bothering nobody. I said, aha, it clicked. Right. We're not bothering nobody. The same God that you want to, that you love, adore, admire, and worship is the same God we love, adore, worship, and admire. And I don't think that God is turning away the worship of those with a pure heart. It is all about the heart. But something has happened within the church. I'm not going to just say the black church. Something has happened within the church or Christianity in general, where people are no longer looking at the heart of an individual. They're looking at the exterior. They're looking at the outer appearance and whatnot. God looks at the heart. If your heart, is like, yo, my heart belongs to. Now, on the outside, I may look raggedy. I may look dirty. I may look poor. I may look broke. I may have a lot of things going on that have you second guessing who I am in Christ. But my heart, and God operates in the heart. So that's all I'm saying. But so last week, Daryl was extremely transparent, and I shared that I have known Daryl for, I would say, over 20 years, and I have watched Daryl be on this journey to finding himself. Daryl went from Kojic to non-church to Buddhist to now back to Kojic to now not church. Daryl has had a journey, and for the longest time, Daryl was like, Dante, I don't want to talk about my journey. I don't want to open that door. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do it. Last week, Daryl said, Dante, let's go. Ask me whatever you want to ask me, and I'm going to tell you how I got to where I am and why I am here. So tonight we're doing part two. We're going to unpack, and I am stalling to give you all time to get your folks up in here because we really got to begin to do the work of unpacking what is going on in the Black church and why y'all so pressed and why y'all so mad, at the gays who are honestly, in all intents and purposes, holding up the foundation. We put a lot of work up in there. So I also want to share this article. So there's an article written by my brother friend Darian Aaron, and he released it on today. And I am so honored to be a part of this article. He featured me in it. He interviewed me in the whole nine, and he also got my boy Kevin Taylor. If y'all don't know who Kevin Taylor is, Kevin Taylor hails out of New York, and Kevin is a beast. Kevin does not hold back anything. He says what's on his mind, and he is challenging the system. But the feature is a brother that I met during the NASM conference. His name is Monroe Shackelford, and it's really a deep dive into what is going on. And the title of the article, I just shared it in the comment section. The title of the article is Despite What You May Have Been Told, Your Queer Sexuality is Sacred. And it's really just an article that is trying to reconcile the relationship between your sexuality and your spirituality. Because like we're discussing on tonight, what's up, Daryl? Like we're discussing on tonight, a lot of people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, gender fluid, gender non-binary, gender non-conforming, however you identify, there is oftentimes a separation between your sexuality and your spirituality. And you must understand that the two do diverge at some point, and you have to know how to navigate that in a very healthy fashion so that you do not end up driving yourself crazy because you're like, well, God will never love me for being like this. And then your self-esteem is dropping and all the other stuff. So we're trying to build this up, okay? If you are a first-time watcher of the Dante Show, please make sure to go on over to YouTube and subscribe. YouTube.com/Dante Morrison. YouTube.com/Dante Morrison. It is absolutely free. It will cost you nothing. It will take you 5 seconds of your life. 5 seconds of your life to subscribe to the Dante Show. I'm asking y'all to do this because I know half of y'all watching right now cannot wait for the Bad Boys Club to air. We were talking about that before we went live. Me and Daryl was talking about it, and Daryl, we'll dive into that. But I was like, you got to be kidding. Who greenlit this farce of a reality show? But we'll talk about that later. All right. So without further ado, y'all, help me welcome back. Hey, Ty East. What's up, Ty Squad? Help me welcome back to the Dante Show my brother, my friend, Mr. Daryl Walter.
Hello.
Daryl. Fan favorite Daryl. He is back. You came in last week with your Ginsu sword and just start slicing at the church, and you didn't care who was under your Nakatori sword. You was just like, let's do this. Let's talk about it. This is my journey. But Daryl, before we dive into that, I'm still a bit perplexed by your admiration and glee and excitement over the Bad Boys Club.
Yes. And I'm excited. And let me just say this. I know that I'm not alone, but I know that many people are afraid to say it out loud for fear of judgment and backlash. But I know I'm not alone.
So for those who have not seen the trailer for the Bad Boys Club, I challenge you to just Google Bad Boys Club, type it in. And, if you have 2 minutes of your life to spare that you do not want back, go ahead and look at the trailer for it. And all I will say is it just shows a different side of maleness, a different side of what happens when you put a group of men together in one house. And no, it's not smut, it's not gutter, but it is very volatile, and it makes you look like this really. And all I do when I see stuff like that, I'm like, yo, there's nothing to balance it out. There's nothing. What is the juxtapose to the Bad Boys Club? Do we not want to see the Good Boys Club? Well, I guess that's white America. But do we? What is the juxtapose to the Bad Boys Club? But I will say, Thais will be tuned in for journalistic purposes.
Exactly. We need stuff. This is our content.
But I will say, I am kind of piqued to see what Kirk Franklin's son is going to give. Now we all know that Kirk Franklin's son came out last year and leaked this curse out from his Holy Ghost filled father, which many of us are like, I don't see nothing wrong with it. You puffed your chest up. Look what happened. Yeah, Kirk is Kirk. But he's on the Bad Boys Club, and I guess he's showing a tender, softer, broken side of himself that the world is not yet prepared to understand, and we're going to be exposed to the other side of the Franklin dynasty.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, Daryl, you be here for it all day.
I'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah, I can't do it. So Daryl, let's go. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
I can't even remember where we cut off last week. All I know is that we talked about your journey through Kojic. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying Kojic because that's how you grew up, because I don't want anybody else to feel like, oh my God, he's bashing the black church. No, he's not bashing anybody. He's talking about his experience growing up Kojic and knowing that he was different, you know. And Daryl, you said now that you're in, I'm just recapping to the best of my recollection. You said now you're in a space where you no longer need church.
Yes.
You don't go to church. You're done singing praise and worship. You are done subscribing to the church house. You are putting on your hat, getting your tambourine. You're done with all that. And now you're in a place of just all I need is me and God.
Let's go yes for the short answer.
Are you okay? Well, are you still a Christian?
So someone asked me this earlier, and I want to say it's complicated because I grew up.
No, it's not. It's not complicated, dude. It's like, are you married or single? Well, it's kind of complicated. No, are you married? Are you single? Are you dated? All this is complicated. Do you believe in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? You know.
I don't prescribe to the Christian culture right now. I believe I would fall if, here, let me just preface this by saying, and I get into it a lot with people, I'm not really into labels. And I don't feel like I have to identify with something. However, with that being said, I understand that the world that we live in, we need to be able to identify and label things that we don't necessarily understand. So I would say for that, I fall under the category of agnostic, right? But are you with me?
Agnostic?
Agnostic, yes.
Okay. Okay, for those that may not understand, explain what agnostic is. I can put the definition if you like.
More than happy to, but for all intent purposes, we know that there is a higher power. We are spiritual, but we don't necessarily identify with a religion.
Oh, okay. So you're not atheist.
No, I'm not atheist. I've never said I don't believe.
Okay, but do you no longer believe in what you were taught growing up?
Well, exactly, and see, that's where we ended part of the ending of the conversation last week was the deconstruction of Christianity, right?
Right.
The decolonization of what I was raised to believe, right? Okay. So there are things growing up that I really, and it started last year, and I've talked about this before, but where I just sat back and said, why am I actually doing this? Why am I going to church every Sunday? Am I really doing this out of, my love for God? Or is this a habit that this is the only thing I know? Which for me, Dante, the real answer was a majority of it was out of habit. Because when I stopped going to church, the most difficult thing was, one, letting go of the guilt of I'm not in church on Sunday. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Which a lot of times Christians and just how we're raised in the Black church, we feel like if we don't go to church on Sunday, there's something wrong with us, right? And then also it's like, well, what do I do with myself on Sundays? I went through that for a period. Like, it's Sunday. I'm so used to wanting to go to church that there was a period where I fought that. And now that it's broken, it's like, my Sundays are normal Sundays and I don't feel the guilt or the weight of me not going to church. Now, does that mean I'm against church or I'm opposed to church? I have an issue
Mhm.
with church? Absolutely not, because there is a place for church in the community and for people who want to attend church. But what I'm also saying is there's a community of people who don't go to church.
So, Daryl, I just want to, challenge you a bit because agnostic is close to atheist. So, by definition, agnostic is a person who believes that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of God or of anything beyond material phenomena. A person who claims neither faith nor disbelief in God. So, I mean, I- I'm just putting it out there because
So,
I think. Go ahead.
okay, so my question to you is, if it were close to atheism, what's the problem with that?
I never said it was a problem. I just want you to make sure that when you articulate how you identify, because everybody's on labels and whatnot, that you are giving the proper label. So you're not going to get challenged by a person that is agnostic. And they're like, well, your definition doesn't align with what I know, an agnostic person to believe. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page because, the Dante show, hey, we got millions and millions and millions of viewers. And I
Right.
want to make sure that we're always spewing out, the proper information. And I think and I wonder. So, what part of and last week we talked about church hurt, church trauma, deconstruction of Christianity. What role did church hurt play in getting you to the point of being agnostic or agnosticism?
Well, falling under agnostic, right? Because again, I'm not saying I don't believe in God or like
Mhm.
I don't believe, but there's definitely some blurred areas, and there are some things in Christianity that I've said I'm no longer interested in. Where the church hurt came into play, I will say it this way: the last church I attended, which I don't say the name of purposely, um, I had a great experience at that church. And there was nothing wrong. Well, there's always people at any church, but I didn't
Right.
have an issue with the pastor or anything like that. But it took me, it's almost like being in a healthy relationship to realize how jacked up your past experience was. So here I was at this great church, um, not having any issues. And then I started going to therapy. And it was me being in that good church that made me look, just kind of look at, oh, like all of these other experiences were not healthy. And so the question that came to me was, how can I heal from the trauma while I'm still in the place where the trauma took place? All
Okay.
churched out. And it's
Yeah.
not even all churched out. I think some people just grow out of it.
And I now that I can agree with. I think that if you have been raised up in a system that has been a constant, you know, cause of contention in your life where you're always just like you're fighting and battling to exist, yes, you will get fatigued, you will get burnt out. And that's why I think the experience is of marginalized individuals within the Black church is totally different from those who fall into the status quo. For example, let's just say a young man or a young girl that grow up and they are the idyllic representation of Christianity and they give all symbolism of church and have just embodied themselves in the church culture because they're not doing anything outside of the norm. But
Mm.
anybody that goes against that norm are part of the marginalized individual, and we're constantly trying to fit into this space or to put this circle into a square. Yes, you are constantly hitting this wall, and at some point you're like, I have no more fight in me. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I'm whooped. And like Thais said, church fatigue. I'm just over the church. I'm not over God. And like you
Mm.
said, you had no problem with the people at this last church. I'm not over the church people. I'm not even over the pastor, but I'm over the church experience. And I'm over everything that the church represents because it's still forcing me to deal with some of the traumas and stuff that's happened in my past that I did not take time out to fully unpack. I mean, am I remotely, in your lane?
That was a lot of it, but let me just say also, it's really getting to the core fundamentals. For me, fundamentally, there were things at my core that I realized were changing, and
Okay.
it was a process for me because I will say, at the beginning of my journey leaving church, there was a period where I did not know if I believed in God.
Okay.
I can be very honest and say that. I went through an experience. There's a book out. Um, I'm just gonna make sure I say the name correctly. There's a book out called Conversations with God by Donald Walsh. And basically, he just chronicles his experience of really coming from not believing in God and literally writing down this conversation that he had with God. And I just kind of bring that up. That was kind of my experience with God. I just really started from the very beginning, from a blank canvas. I consulted a lot of friends. I was like, yo, I don't even know if I believe in God right now. That's really honestly where I'm at with it.
And that's nothing. I mean, I think I'm just gonna ask. I'm just gonna poll the village. You know, how many saints of the Most High are on this chat that you've had that moment in your life or in your walk when you was like, is God really real? Does God really exist? You know, am I doing all this just for giggles? You know, is it where is God? And I think that's fair. I recall when I started my podcast like 4 years ago, just conversations. I actually had a former pastor on my podcast that professed to being a pastor preaching from the Bible, but did not believe in God. And
Hmm.
he said it. He was like, Dante, I could preach, I could teach, I knew everything in the Bible, and I would get in front of God's people and I would wear it out. But I myself did not believe in God because I came to a certain space. He came to a certain part in his walk where he was like, is this even real? You know,
Hmm.
and I know that we always hear people say, don't question God, don't question God. Why? You know, David questioned God. Job, people question God in the Bible. If you want answers, you have to ask a question. How are you going to get an answer if you don't ask questions? You know, and so I empathize and I totally relate to what you said just now about, yo, do I believe in God? But the problem is Christians do not make it safe enough for us to have those questions of doubt. Because the minute we say, if I call my brother Daryl, you know what? Do you believe in God still? And if Daryl would say, not really, you know, I mean, if we would have these honest conversations, we could sit down, get to the root of why we're at this doubting phase, and then rebuild our understanding. But like you said, the church has created this institution where if unless you follow the rules, you know, you're not going to gain access. And any kind of question or behavior outside of the rules is going to restrict you from getting to God. But how are we going to get close to God if we don't talk to Him?
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of that has to do with, like we talked about before, Christian supremacy, right? The belief that, and a lot of people carry this belief that what I believe is superior to what you believe, right? And
Mhm.
so it's like, how dare you question that? How dare you bring something that's contrary to what we believe? Because what we believe is the pinnacle. Now, let's be clear: Christian supremacy was brought on um, by white people, and that was used to get people to change their mind and influence to live a certain way and do certain things. And I think, um, well, I'll just say it: we've taken on some of those characteristics.
Well, we talked about that last week. Yes, there is white supremacist influence, you know, instilled within the black church. And regardless of how black the black church professes to be, there is still white supremacist influence therein. Studied it, dissertations about it. So, I mean, I cannot refute you on that because, yes, I don't care how fist up the black church tries to be. You know, Mr. Johnson is up in there with that whip. You know, if we go deep enough, we will see it. I want to touch on what Thais said about doubt. Thais said doubt is not a bad thing. We all have been there. You just can't sit with that too long, though, because when you begin to sit with that too long, then you fall into that space of just total disbelief. You know, but I think that it is fair and it is healthy for us to sit in spaces where we really have to question our relationship with God, the existence of God, the direction that God wants us to go in. And sometimes that can be a very lonely space to be in. But because most Christians are pack animals, you know,
Hmm.
sheep travel in packs. So
Mhm.
most Christians have a herd mentality. And the minute you step out from that herd or you become that sheep that's over there, now
Mhm.
you're the outlier that's going against the status quo, and you now have a reprobate mind and you turn over to the devices of the enemy and all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, I have isolated myself to get a better understanding of God. Now, where I have been in my life, similar to you, I had to leave the church to get closer to God. Figure that out. Some folks are like, what do you mean? I'm like, yo, I had to leave the church to build my relationship with God, because in the church I wasn't building my relationship because I was getting bashed too much. I was hearing too much stuff that was belittling who I was as an individual, but I never wanted to get from underneath God's umbrella. So I said, well, Lord, let me find a way to just sit with you alone, away from Christians, to know you. And then when you are ready for me to re-emerge back into that space, you tell me when. And that's exactly what God did.
And
So I,
let's be clear,
yeah, go
just
ahead.
to add in here, Dante, because I
Yeah,
like to
you be
come in.
clear.
The church in particular, I'm gonna say it. This is the opinion of DW. The church, especially the Kojic and Apostolic and Pentecostal, has been guilty of taking advantage of women and the LGBTQIA plus
Mm-hmm.
community for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so for that
Oh,
period,
okay,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so and for a lot of, like, especially the LGBTQ plus community, and for women who are marginalized, in my opinion, it is okay to take that break from church and find your direction and your journey.
Well, I also think that anything is okay if God has ordained it. Now, I will say that I know a lot of people that prematurely run when God has not said run. They prematurely go, and there's a song, we are soldiers in the army. I'm on the battlefield for my Lord. Well, when you're on the battlefield, that means you are battling. That means that you are in the midst of some kind of fight, some kind of war, some kind of something's going on. So if you are on the battlefield and I promise him that I will serve him till I die, so you ain't dead yet. So keep serving. You're on the battlefield. It's a constant battle, but you ask God to equip you. And that's when we get into the book of Ephesians, the whole breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation. All of that comes in. And I think that most people, they allow the church to run them away when God has not said move. And my thing that I always trying to get people, and I always ask folks, what did God say do? Where did God say go? Well, I'm sick of the church. I'm sick of them. What did God tell you to do? Because if you are there for God, and if God is the author of your life, God is the light unto your path, if God is directing where you're supposed to go, but you're doing everything you want to do to avoid people and to get off the battlefield, isn't that disobedience? But that's just me.
No,
That's
no,
just
it's
me.
not. I agree. I agree with you, and I'm just going to tell this little story.
How you
When
agree with me then said no, it's not?
I'm sorry,
How you agree with me but then said no, it's not?
because that's my business and I can.
Go ahead.
I was a fun story. So last year, when I stepped down from all the ministries, one ministry in particular, she was just like, "Okay, you can step down, but I better see you in church. I better see you in church at least." And I thought about it for a second, Dante. And I was at this period last year. I'll be very transparent. I had a complete breakdown. I was crying. It was, if anybody's been there, but I just like had a breakdown. I knew that something was wrong. And she was like, "Well, I want to see you in church at least. You got to be there." And I knew myself well enough to know that
Mhm.
I could not mentally handle anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes that's one of the things I had to change my beliefs about. We're taught for so long, well, don't you let nobody run you away. You stick it out, you do what God told you to do, you stay strong. And it's like, listen, sometimes it's not running away, but it's knowing what you can handle. I believe in mental health. I am an advocate for taking care of your mental first. And for some people, the honest truth is, you're sick and tired of this church, you might want to skip a couple of Sundays. Go take a break. Don't even visit another church. Just go ride your bike. Go take a break from church and come back, because you need a mental break from all of that you're taking on. Battlefield, yes, but sometimes you got to take a break from the battlefield.
But then, and I'm gonna push back lightly and lovingly and gingerly, because I like what Thais just said. Thais over on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, make sure to follow the official Thais Report. Please do so. Subscribe to the official Thais Report over there on YouTube. It is a hoot. It will give you your lunch break laugh. Trust me, I get it all the time. So Thais says some people say they are on small sabbatical, but left their church over a decade ago. Listen. Some of y'all like that daddy that went to the store to get some milk and never came back. You know, y'all don't ran out to the market, get a pack of Cool Filter Kings and never came back. How long is your sabbatical, sis? What's going on? What is going on? Hey, Aura, how you doing? What's going on? So, Daryl, here's my question. And this is my loving pushback.
Yes.
Because you believe in God,
Mm-hmm.
and because you were raised up to believe in God,
Mm-hmm.
and you subscribe to the word of God, you know, and you have learned to trust God. So I believe. So I think. Are you doing what God said to do for your life? Or are you operating under your own devices?
Well, I mean, I'm always being led. I'm doing, yes.
Guess
Yes.
what? I asked 2 questions. Guess what? Are you being led by God? Are you operating under your own devices because you're tired of the church?
Hmm.
Now, you told me before the show started, I can, be a Capricorn.
Yeah, you can. Again, I don't mean to make it complicated because it's not complicated, as you say. I am on a spiritual journey.
Okay.
I am on a journey that if you'd have talked to me 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, I was all into church. I was so happy to be back in church. I was so happy to develop this life that I have developed.
Right.
I never thought I would be a person to leave church. So this journey that I am on, I would say that it's led by God, but it's definitely different. It's definitely lonely. It's something I don't expect people to understand. But I know that I made the right decision for me.
And that's it. And I think that is the most honest and solid answer that anybody in your position can give. I'm making the best God-led decision or God-ordered decision for me. Mm-hmm. No one needs to understand that. Mm-hmm. No one has to understand it because it is your path. It is your journey. And I think that oftentimes we as individuals, not just Christians, we as individuals, we fail to just give a simplistic answer because it may confound the wise, and it's like, if I say, Daryl, so yada, 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 and you're like, I'm doing what God told me to do for me. And period. Now, if God said to do it, who am I? I am but mere mortal, mere human. It's all about that because I hate when people come to me and say, Dante, the Lord told me to do this. What do you think? What?
Right.
So I think that how you just closed that out was a phenomenal summation of your truth and where you are at right now in your journey with God.
Now, can I add this on to what you just asked?
You can do whatever you want to do, Daryl.
Thank you so much. Because you said, well, are you operating under your own guise? And here's what I believe. A lot of times we go out and we think we're doing it. Like, let's say, for example, I leave the house and I say, you know what? I always make a left on this street. I'm going to go ahead and make a right today and take this different route. And then you turn on the news and you look the route that you normally take, there was a car accident. So, there are times where I think I'm doing it under my guise. I think I'm doing it because this is what I want to do, but the honest truth, where I go to is, was it really me or was it the great divine? Right. Or when I say, I feel like God led me to do this, was it really God or was it myself? So I think there's always that question where for me, I learned to trust the process.
Right. Boom. There you go. Yo, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in. We're not going nowhere. We're just going to take a quick commercial break to let Daryl hydrate, fan himself, and all kind of stuff. Please do not go anywhere. We'll be right back in 30 seconds for the second half of the Dante Show.
Grab a snack and come on back.
Yeah. Welcome back to the second half of the Dante Show with special guest Daryl. I don't go to church no more, Walter, and we are glad to have him here.
You really just trying to get me beat up in these streets, mother. I
I
love it.
think that Daryl is opening a door that many people just do not want to talk about. A lot of folks out there have been burned by the church, are dealing with church hurt, church trauma, just over it. And this is not just specific to the LGBTQ community. This is just people in general who have just felt themselves being oppressed. And within that oppression, there comes challenges and all kind of other obstacles that can roll over into their everyday life. However, there is a level of accountability that we too have as Christians when it comes to just making the church a safe space. And I know that, the dogma that is within the church is it's draining. It is draining. But some of us have been equipped to be like, yo, you know what? We're going to battle this head on. We're going to be like, yo, enough is enough. Otherwise, it's going to just keep being a cycle of confusion. Kyrie Sanaj chimed in and said, why return to confusion? And then he said, it should be about relationships and not a building filled with people creating chaos. And I will agree to that to a point, because I never want to come across as elitist or like I'm better than the next person. I have been to good churches, I have been to bad churches, I have been to okay churches. And I think it all depends on what you are prepared or what God has equipped you to deal with within that specific season. And I think a lot of folks are operating out of season. They're in the wrong season, or they're trying to prolong a season within a space that God has long told them enough is enough. It's time to go. And if you're still sitting there and God is poking you and saying, my child, get up and leave. Your season is over here. But God, I can't leave because my grandma here, my mama here, and this person needs me, that person needs me, the pastor needs me, first lady needs me. And God is like, it's enough. I got somewhere else for you to be. There is work across town that you got to do, but you're being disobedient. And I think, Daryl, that's why I asked about, are you being led by God? And your answer was, to me, beautiful when you said, I am doing what God has told me to do that is best for me. Because when we begin to start pointing at others in the church, and this one's messy, that one's messy, yada, 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 somebody's pointing at you too, because
Yeah.
none of us are perfect. We are all flawed. We have all done our part to make the black church uncomfortable for somebody else. I don't care which you are, how you live, whatever. We've all done something to upset somebody else and to make them just kind of waver in their walk with Christ. Daryl, what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, my thoughts are okay. If you walk away from church, church is not for everybody. When I stopped going to church, one of the things I realized for me that I would say to anybody is that you want to be able to walk away without any hurt or pain, right? I don't have an issue with church. When I stopped going to church, it wasn't, oh, I'm just so tired of this shit, or this person made me angry. It was really one of those things where I just realized, like, this really has come to an end. Even I was in disbelief about it. And I think part of my journey and my mission is just to talk to other people who aren't in church, to say, you know what, let go, forgive, but hold them accountable. Recognize that they're not taking responsibility. But now that you're not in church, what does your spirituality look like? What does your life outside of church look like? Because it doesn't have to be bad, and you don't have to feel pressed or guilty because you've made a conscious choice not to attend church.
And you do know that's ministry, right?
So I am aware of that, yes.
So
But
technically, you're building your own church outside the church walls, because you are still ministering to the broken. You're ministering to the ones who have just been damaged and bruised, and you're giving them encouragement and light.
I'm providing a service.
Mhm.
I
You
think
can,
sometimes
you know what, you can color it any way you want and all that, Daryl, but you are still doing ministry. It is in you, and God pulled you from that space to allow you to help those others who are out there and they've just given up. Because what I don't see you doing, you're not one of the ones that left church and you're standing in front of the church with a big sign rallying against church and bashing church. And I
They're
hate
gonna
church.
be there.
And
They're gonna
you're
be
not,
there.
you're not doing that. You're not. But I know a lot of people that were hurt by church and they left church and now they're just so anti-church that everything that comes out their mouth is a hate and a loathing for the church. But no, you're not doing that. You are still encouraging others who have been broken, bruised, and damaged by church. So you are ministering. However you want to say it, however you want to frame it is between you and God, but you're still operating in the office of a minister.
Okay, yes, for conversation purposes, yes. I just love
Let me
people.
just say,
Listen,
just say it.
okay, here's a couple of things. I know everybody's they're like, Minister Daryl, listen, I'm gonna be me. Okay. My friend came out to Vegas and she won $200, and I must have shouted around that casino because I was so happy she won that. I'm gonna yell out church explanatives all the time because that's part of my culture. You know what I'm saying?
And calling.
And calling, which we all have callings. Let's
We
be
do.
very clear. We all have callings, right?
We do.
I am a people person. I do love people. That is really it. And I wish
That's
more
the
people
spirit
just
that God gave you. God gave you a spirit for people. He gave you a spirit for those who have been hurt, bruised, and damaged by the institution that you grew up in. So therefore, you have a relatability to those who have been hurt by a system that damaged you. And because you came back into the system and you did praise and worship, you did your season with Buddhism, and then you came back to the house of God, you led praise and worship, and then God said, you know what? Yeah, you already know all this. It's folks outside this building that need to hear your voice and your encouragement. So I'm going to pull you out of the building and set you on the block. And although you may feel you are out of the church and you're done with the church, bruh, you're still ministering. It's in you.
yes, and I'm
Yeah,
out of the church. But
yeah.
here's the thing. I'm not stumbling over my words. I totally get everything that you're
So
saying.
basically, you're a missionary.
I am Daryl.
You're
I
a
am Daryl.
missionary.
I am
That's fine.
someone.
Color it how you want, Daryl. That's fine.
Why do y'all come on somebody?
The
Listen,
color it how you want. Color it how you want, and try to be this new age Christian and all that. That's fine.
no,
That,
no.
that's that's fine. That's fine.
Here's the thing. It's not about
What's the
being
thing
new
then?
age. It's really about saying you have options. Um,
Yes,
spirituality,
you have options how you can get to God.
get to wherever your destination is. Because let me say this. I am the person, if your destination is that you believe this cup is going to get you to glory, I'm going to ride you on out to work you through that. I'm not
Uh-huh.
going to change your destination. If
Because
it's
that's God's job, because you're not God. You're an encourager.
that's all
So
I do.
you're gonna encourage folks wherever they are in their walk. You're not gonna shame them. You're not
And
gonna
there,
ostracize them. You're not gonna down them because you experienced that in church and you know how that feels. So therefore, since you know how that feels, God is going to use what you went through to pull somebody else closer to Him.
you
You
just
know
want to
what?
be right. You just want to be right so
I don't
bad.
be
I hear
right.
it all in your voice.
I don't want to be right. I don't be right.
Everybody's like, yes, Dante,
You can,
call him
you can,
out.
no,
Call him out. He ain't
you
changed.
can fight it all you want, but you just said, I'm going to encourage those
I am.
who are trying to walk on a path of righteousness to get to where they need to be, to their own understanding. I'm going to encourage them. I'm not going to say, you better be up in church or you're not going to get into heaven. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say you need to sing on a praise team or you won't get into heaven. I'm not going to say that because you know how that made you feel. You know
Dante,
how that made
yes.
you feel. It's called empathy. It's called empathy, and it's called connecting with like-minded individuals. You are connecting with those who have walked away from the institution but have not walked away from God. You are connected with them. They
Well,
come
okay,
to
so
you and you
mhm.
feel them. But I'm gonna let you talk. I'm gonna sit back.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like he is motivated. Like he's
I,
motivated
I,
about
I,
the
all I
consecration.
can just say is what you know. Go ahead.
Listen, Thais and not. No, I'm kidding.
That's fine.
No,
That's fine.
what I want to say to that is that you're partly right. You are partly right.
And I'm not saying this to be right. I'm really
No,
not.
no,
Yeah.
no. I mean, because who we are is who we are at the end of the day. I'm still not going to church. I intentionally don't have a pastor. I'm not prescribing to any of that, but I just think as human beings, just out in the world now, call it missionary, call it ministry, call it empathy. I'm just being who I am. Like even with my following on TikTok. Okay, 12,000 people are following me. And people are like, oh, don't you want to do a thank you? Don't you want to do anything? And I was like, it's not even about how many followers I have. I just recognize what's in me and the fact that people are resonating with me.
You
And
found a
whatever,
new way to reach the masses.
I'm just reaching them. It could have been 12 or 12,000.
You
Listen,
found a new way. You found a new way to reach the masses because you've done all you could inside the building. You were limited and you were stifled. So you have liberated yourself from the institution of church and freed yourself to be totally, unapologetically used by God in the capacities that He designed you for. And as you use your voice and as you edify others, God is going to edify you. As you bless others, God is going to bless you. Does that have to happen inside the building? No,
no.
it does not. It can happen on the street corner. It can happen in the restaurants. It can happen anywhere you are because wherever you are, Daryl, God is there also. So if you're not in the church, that's fine. If you're not going on Sunday morning, that's fine. You're not going on Wednesday, that's fine. But I guarantee if you start dropping what you know on your TikToks, you will become that next televangelist or whatever the case may be on a social media platform because you are an influencer that has a following. People trust honesty and transparency. You are honest about your sexuality. You are honest about your church hurt. You are honest about all that you're going through spiritually. People gravitate to that because they want to connect with folks who understand them and where they are. Your honesty is a ministry. You know what? I'm done. Let
Well,
me go
here's
ahead and
my
talk,
thing.
Daryl. Go ahead and
No,
talk.
no, okay. I will say this. I'm
What you gonna
grateful.
say?
All I will say is I am who I am. I'm not
We know.
I'm not trying to bring the masses.
We
I
know.
do understand. I will say this. It took me a while to understand the platform and the position. Like my mom used to say all the time, what did she used to say? To whom much is given, much is required. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying I'm someone above who has been given much, but I realize the power in my word. I realize there have been times when I'm just around one or two people, and a year later they go, Daryl, remember when you said X, Y,
Mhm.
Z? When I act a fool, it's more memorable.
Mhm.
So I'm aware of just me, my creation, myself, whether you call it ministry, whether you call it televangelism, or whether you call it having a platform. We probably gonna do a part three because let's be honest, there's a lot of celebrities who have platforms,
Mhm.
right? Who have influence.
Daryl, let me say this. Ooh.
Because I get what you're
And
saying.
let me just say this. Let me just because you said something early on in the show, and I'm noticing that's what you're running to. Early on in the show, you said, "I don't like labels. I'm over the labels." Okay, I get that labels can be annoying, and repeatedly you have said, "I don't have no pastor. I don't go to church. Yada yada yada," because those are labels. So you're over the labels. You want to freely be who you are, and do the work that God has called you to do without all the labels, without all the chains, without all the red tape. And that's exactly what you're doing. However, you don't want to say this what you're doing because then that's a label. So you're running from labels because you're doing the work. You are
Right.
doing the work of ministry, but you are like, I refuse to label what I'm doing because then I have boxed myself back into that system that you have grown to loathe, which many of us have. But bruh, I,
Here's
I
the
mean,
thing. If you ever go to Canada, right? and you look at the social services buildings, do you know what they say at the top of them?
Well, I personally do not. No, what do they say, Daryl?
They say ministry.
Oh, the
So
ministry
ministry of
of,
social
yeah,
services,
yeah.
ministry of,
Uh-huh.
I understand that ministry is a service. Now, in the church world,
Uh-huh.
in your world, is it ministry? Okay, that's what you want to call it. That's
Oh,
fine.
right. That's
Is
the
that what I
label.
call it? That's the
No,
label.
that's the label. I mean, Daryl, I'm gonna rock with you and support you, till the wheels fall off because you are my brother. I love you. I love you. And I think this conversation has been not only eye-opening for me, but for a lot of folks that are watching, because you are in that space of you're fatigued by the system of the church. The system of the church puts such a bad taste in your mouth that you have disassociated with the whole system. With the whole system. And I get it.
Yeah.
I trust me, I get it. What God has told you to do and how God has ordered your steps, my steps are ordered differently. I'm still in the church as a black gay Christian
Yeah.
man. I'm still in it. You are out of the church as a black gay agnostic. You are out of the church.
As a black gay man.
But
As a
we are
black gay
both.
man.
Oh, you're not no more. But we
Well,
are
no, no,
both.
it's not that, but spirituality and
It
religion is
is.
such a
But what I'm
private
saying
thing
is
for me
we
now.
are we are both in our own elements
Right.
doing the work that we have been called to do. Period. Can you agree to that?
Sure. Absolutely.
Right.
Again, remember part of the conversation, I believe the church has its place in the community.
It does. And I believe people like you have a place as well to reach those who are not in the church. I'm serious.
I
You
get
can
it.
reach
I
people
get
that
it.
I cannot, and I can reach who you cannot. That's how the word spreads. We all have our platform. Thais is about to go reach folks that he can reach because it's a word in the belly, Eba. It's a word in the belly.
Okay,
So, I
well,
mean,
here's
we all have our platforms. We all have our approaches. We all have our styles. We all have them. And I respect everybody's lane. That's why I don't get all trippy when folks go over here or go. I don't trip because those who I have been called, chosen, and ordained to reach, they're gonna get to me. I ain't
yeah.
gotta step in Daryl's lane. I ain't gotta step in Titus's lane. I ain't gotta step in Kyrie's lane. Everybody got their lane,
Well,
and I
let's be
think
clear,
that's
Dante.
the beautiful part.
The lane that you have chosen to travel has taken bravery and courage. Like I highly respect you
Thank
because you literally went back to the church
you.
that you were connected in your former years
Hmm.
and made a huge change in the church. And I recognize and I totally see that. We coming up on the end.
We
Do I
come
get
on
to
time.
talk?
We got 1 minute left, and let me before we go, I commend you because you had the moxie to walk away and to say, Lord, enough is enough. And you hearkened to the voice and you left. You didn't try to force yourself to fit into a situation that God had pulled you away from. That took courage. It takes courage to open your mouth and publicly say, no, I don't go to church anymore. Yes, I grew up in it. I don't go to church. But I can help you as you don't go to church either.
Hmm.
We all have our callings. That's all I'm trying to get everyone to understand. We all have our callings, we all have our approach. But the problem with the black church is that there is so much competition, everyone clamoring for the same people, and no one stepping outside to go get the lost sheep. To get the one, everybody trying to hoard the 99, and the one is over there with a knife to their throat, finna go like this. But nobody's focusing on that because as long as I got my 99, my church is growing. No, my dude, you are called to go and get the one over there that is lost. Jesus left the sheep to go get the one. That's what you have done, bro. You left the sheep to go out there and get the one that is sick and tired of being sick and tired. You have probably talked to folks that have been suicidal, that have been on the verge of giving up, but because you stepped in and said, you know what, I get it. You ain't got to go back and you're going to be just fine. You saved a life. That's ministry or whatever you want to call it. Spiritual awakening, spiritual empowerment, whatever you want to call it, that's being used by God according to your purpose. That's what we got to do. The black church, is overflowing with people that know how to operate in the Black church. Period. We know all the catchphrases. We know what to put on. We know all of it. But what are we doing for the ones that have given up on the church completely and threw the middle finger up and said, I'm done? No one is going out into the community to get those individuals. That's why God pulled you out and said, Daryl, go out there and do it, because ain't nobody else doing it. You've done enough work inside the building. Get out the building, Daryl. I don't need you here. Go out there and talk to them.
I paid my dues. I paid my dues.
You paid your dues, and now you're out there doing the work. Doing the work. On that note, I'm gonna go ahead and we 3 minutes over. Kwame is gonna fine me like $10. You know, y'all don't know Pyro. Pyro is strict on time, y'all. Pyro don't play. You know, so Daryl, trust me, bro. You are in alignment with what you are supposed to be doing.
I am.
Now you got to just sit down. Now you got to sit down and say, okay, Lord, now that I got some clarity, what do you really want me to do out here? So you're not just wayward. Just sit with God. Sit with God and say, Lord, what are you having to do? I done made this stance, God. I'm not going to church. I'm not doing this. What do you really want me to do? You know, what is my purpose for not being in church? So I'm just saying it because, you know, I love you, man. I'm going to love you.
I love you back. Yeah, I love you back.
I have you back. I'm like, you a Buddhist. What, you got fruits and vegetables on the counter? What? Okay, I love you.
Well, listen, I will say that I know we over Kwame, so I'm going to
your closing comment.
My closing comment is I know for a long time I was on a journey looking for happiness. And so I was jumping from religion to religion, thinking I would find something in another religion. I feel like my purpose right now is just to say to people out there, those of you who are not going to church, those of you who are angry with church, those of you who have had terrible things happen to you in church, there is nothing wrong with you. Your feelings are valid. You are absolutely right in the way that you feel and that you are going to be okay. And you don't have to go to church or go back to church in order to be okay. You are fine exactly where you are.
And let me just address Devin Wiley and Kyrie Sanaj that's just echoed Devin Wiley. Now, Devin, me and you have had wonderful conversations about church, and what you're saying, that is your opinion, and I respect that. And hopefully you got to watch the whole exchange between Daryl and I, because sometimes you come in on the tail end, you get one part and miss all the other stuff we talked about. And Kyrie, I mean, say that. I mean, I just gave a whole presentation about walking in your purpose and walking in your calling. Is everyone supposed to be in the building? No, some folks have a work to do outside the building, but they're not doing that either.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you've left the church and left God. So you've left the church. What are you doing in the field? What are you doing in the vineyard? Are you still being led by God? Or have you thrown up everything and said, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done? Yeah. You know, I mean, I get church hurt. I have been hurt by the church. I have been there, but God placed me back in the church to do a work. God pulled Daryl out of the church to do a work. Some of y'all who have left the church, you still have a work undone. And you need to ask God, what should I be doing since I can't seem to stomach the building? But there's a work out in the streets. What should you be doing instead of just sitting back complaining about the church? Who are you helping? Who are you loving on? Who are you nurturing? Who are you holding? Who are you embracing? Who are you encouraging? Who are you encouraging? Because your words have power. Words have power. And the people who need to be in the church, your words can hurt them. They can hurt them. That period. So you've been hurt by the church, and now you're hurting folks who are still in the church who need the church to feel whole. It goes both ways. It goes both ways. And it all boils down to, are you in right standing with God? Are you where God called you to be? So before we point fingers and just because I could easily judge Daryl and say, if you're not in church, you've forsaken the assembly of the fellowship. No, Daryl, that's not right. No, because I don't know what God has called Daryl to do. I don't know what God has called Devin to do. I don't know what God has called Kyrie to do. I don't know that. And you don't know what God has called me to do. So if I'm still in church and you're bashing the place that I love, support, and go to, what's that doing to me?
And let me just double down, Donta. I know we're about to end, but just to double down, what you call a performance art place is an expression of our Black African history, right? That is not just a performance. That is who we are, connected to where we come from. And I think a lot of people just take that for granted, that singing, the speaking in tongues, the running around of church, the altar
praise
call,
dance, all of it. That's
that
our
is all of
culture.
our culture and who we are. So while I say I don't go to church, again, Dante, you're my brother. The church has its place and it has a beautiful experience. Have people mess that up? Yes. But that is
Yes.
still a part of us as Black people.
Yes, as a culture, yes, yes, and I can't. We give the wrong people too much power over our relationship with God. Period. And we can never do that. We can never get a man so much authority on how we relate to God, because God should always be the head. I had to just say that because people don't understand that when they say those kind of words, it's a performing arts, whatever, taking money. So you're talking about me because I go to church. I consider myself to be upstanding. I've helped a lot of people. I've counseled a lot of people, and that just scars me. And that's not a friend, to stick it closer than a brother. But we gotta wrap this up, y'all. Daryl, I love you.
I
I
love you back.
appreciate you. I applaud you. Yo, y'all, follow the Donta Show on YouTube, youtube.com/Donta Morrison. Absolutely nothing. It's free of charge. Just click the subscribe button and do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. If you subscribe. If you don't, you don't. I'm asking you to follow me on Instagram, Donta_Morrison on the IG. Village, I appreciate you. I love you. I thank you for rocking with us. Tonight's conversation, to me, it was great. I hope it encouraged, it inspired, and it motivated somebody. I hope it healed somebody and let you know that you are not alone. If you want more information on the Donta Show or to have a show like the Donta Show, reach out to Pyro Media. Pyro Media can hook you up. You get a show like ours, with your own intros, outros, and all that kind of stuff. We love you. We appreciate you. Daryl, I love you. Thank you so much. I will see y'all on Thursday for my clergy conversations, which is an offspring of the Donta Show. It is me and Black clergy talking about vaccines, COVID and HIV. Phenomenal conversations. Jay Roberts, Walt B, all the Thai squad from YouTube. Thank y'all so much for being here. And make sure to check out Thai East. I know Thai East is going to go live and do a whole recap of this conversation because it's shut up in the bones and it's going to come out. Kwame, take us on out. Good night, everybody.
Peace, y'all.